Hey guys, what's up? It's imuRgency and welcome back to my channel. Today we are back and we are talking about nepotism babies. I feel like every so often, usually when like a show is super popular, the internet will remember that nepotism in the entertainment industry exists. And is very prevalent. Like for example, just like the Kardashians, the Barrymores, the Smiths, the Hadids, the Olsens, like the list can go on and on. Nepotism, or the practice among those in power or influence of favoring relatives or friends, especially by giving them jobs, is nothing new and has been going on in Hollywood and the entertainment industry for a very long time. And today we're going to talk about it. Is nepotism in the entertainment industry necessarily harmful? And what does it really mean to be self-made in entertainment these days? As you can tell, there's a lot to unpack here. We're going to try and address it all here in this video. So if you are new and enjoy content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. I do show reviews, pop culture commentary, character analysis, all that. Also do me a huge favor and leave a like on this video because that helps me out a bunch, and follow me on my socials at imuRgency because I'll be posting there. But enough self-promo, let's actually get into the video. So I guess it'd only be right to start this video by giving us a baseline on like what are nepotism babies, because I feel like that term is thrown around a whole bunch online, and especially recently has gained a lot of traction just because a bunch of actors have been not exposed because it's like their family, but it's become public knowledge that certain actors happen to be. But let's talk about it. So Urban Dictionary defines nepotism baby or nepo baby as a child of a famous actor or celebrity who got famous due to nepotism. And just to expand on that a little bit more, I'm going to broaden that to say not just an actor or celebrity, but also powerful individuals, specifically in the entertainment industry. So executive producers, directors, writers, basically people that would have some sort of stake and leverage where they can pretty much just put their child in any position that they really want to. We're having an easier process to get a position as someone who didn't have those connections would. So now that we have like that working definition, like what exactly does a nepotism baby look like? Like what are we working with? Basically, most recently in the public eye, Maud Apatow, or Lexi on Euphoria, is an example of a nepotism baby because her dad is famous comedian Judd Apatow and her mom, Leslie Mann, is an actress. But it's not just Maud, also think the Hadids like Gigi Hadid, Bella Hadid. Their parents were famous beforehand. Pretty much they're a little bit premature, but Beyonce's kids, and honestly Beyonce, I found this out recently, Beyonce is sort of like an industry baby. Baby back? No. Beyonce is also kind of an industry baby because her great uncle is Marvin Gaye, and I didn't know that. And I feel like the biggest family that creates nepotism babies is the Kardashians. Like Kylie, Kendall, all of Kim's kids, and they're gonna grow up and be successful no matter what they do. Like I feel like it's so common for like famous people to also have like famous parents. Like sort of being like self-made is kind of a rarity in the entertainment industry in Hollywood. Like they say this all the time, like go on your fave's Wikipedia page. If their parents' names are highlighted in blue, your fave just might be a nepotism baby. And that sort of transitions me into my next question of like, is there really an issue with nepotism or nepotism babies in the industry? And I feel like the people's main concern and main gripe with nepotism and like nepotism babies specifically is that it really does emphasize the narrative that it's really not what you know, it's who you know. Meaning you could be like the most talented person in the room, but if you're sharing that room with the child of like the casting director, then there's like a conflict of interest and things may not pan out the way that they should, if that makes sense. And in such a competitive industry like entertainment, it's no surprise that people sort of put up their guards and are sort of suspicious and standoffish against nepotism babies. And I feel like this only really becomes a huge issue when these people who came up with these connections claim to be self-made after they become successful. And that's not to say that people who have famous parents or successful families or whatever don't work for what they have. It's just that they were given a different set of circumstances that made it considerably easier and took away a lot of the barriers that most people really deal with. And of course, the biggest example of this is Kylie Jenner. When she had that whole scandal of her coming out and saying that she's like a self-made billionaire, even though she was very much assisted and had a incredibly successful and rich family to begin with. So in these situations, it's really hard for a quote-unquote nepotism baby to claim to be like self-made in that sense, especially when they're going in the same or similar industry as like the rest of their family who's already made it big. Just because they're coming in with the knowledge, funds, connections, and in certain cases the cushion to be able to put all of your attention into your craft or passion that you want to do. It's a luxury to have a family that supports you, that you could spend all of your time going to casting calls, going to auditions without having to worry about balancing like 3 other jobs and trying to figure out how you're going to pay rent. There's just things that you don't have to think about when your family's like super successful and well off that are actual barriers to entry for a lot of other people. Now I'm going to move on temporarily from the entertainment side of like famous parents and stuff like that, but I also feel like if you're super interested in this topic, there are some other creators that have made amazing videos on this. Specifically, I'm talking about my friend Amanda Mariano, who made this amazing video on famous parents. But now I want to transition into a different topic of like how nepotism shows up in other industries, because I feel like the entertainment industry is very interesting in how nepotism is kind of normalized. Whereas in like, for example, corporate America, also an industry where nepotism is rampant. But like, I feel like nepotism in the corporate space is something that's frowned upon just because it goes against like the whole egalitarian American worth ethic of like picking yourself up by your bootstraps and working for what you got. Like this false sense of like American virtue of sort of having your future in your own hands, and like time and time again it's proven that like that just is not the case for most people. And getting into that is a completely different video, but I just thought it's important to bring that up to see like the difference in like how nepotism is sort of handled and viewed in different industries. Now I want to transition to my next point of like, is there such thing as a good nepotism baby? And I feel like discourse has had a lot online, and the internet has sort of made its own kind of distinction of like what a good nepotism baby and a bad one really looks like. And I feel like the criteria is based on like how each of them really use their platform. For example, some traits of like a good nepotism baby would be showing exceptional individual talent that isn't related to your family. So being like genuinely really good at acting, modeling, singing, whatever you're becoming famous for, like be really good at that, like genuinely talented at it. Or if you're just genuinely not, acknowledging the fact that you got to this position through your set of circumstances and then using your platform and influence just for the greater good. And the final trait that I can really think of a good nepotism baby is just genuinely being so well-rounded, good, and unique that people don't know or they forget that you have famous parents. Like the best nepotism babies, you have no idea that they're nepotism babies just because they're so individually talented and so in their own lane. Like an example of a really good nepotism baby is Tracee Ellis Ross. Like, wait, who is her mom? I know she's a nepotism baby, but I even forget who her mom is. Diana Ross. Like Tracee Ellis Ross's mom is Diana Ross. Like that's nepotism at work. And traits of like a bad nepotism baby, which I feel like is the one that most people tend to harp on, are people that are not exceptionally talented. I feel like an example of this isn't real life, but I think like Trina from Victorious. Trina from Victorious is a nepotism baby. Like just because Tori was talented on the show and their parents were like well connected or whatever, like Trina Vega is 100% a bad nepotism baby. And people say on the internet that like Kendall Jenner is an example of a bad nepotism baby just because people say that she doesn't really give like other models do. I feel like having these labels of being like a good or bad nepotism baby sort of does put a lot of pressure on these people. I was gonna say these children, but these people are literal adults. But it does put a lot of pressure on them because once you have one of these labels, they kind of like stick with you in like public opinion, which sort of leads to my next topic of like the pressure of being a nepotism baby. Like while these people have a lot of access to opportunities, high profile people, events, stuff like that, like at the end of the day, these are still like people who are vulnerable to public perception because public perception in the entertainment industry does heavily impact the jobs that you get, the opportunities that you get, and just how you're perceived as like a professional. And I feel like that does come with a lot of unique pressures, specifically for the nepotism babies that are trying really hard to sort of establish their separate identity and branch themselves off to be individuals. And on one hand, you really can't blame them for feeling this pressure because at the end of the day, they didn't choose to be born into that family. One person who's been very vocal about like their nepotism babiness and like how they want to break out of their parents' shadow and be an individual is Maud Apatow. She's quoted saying in the LA Times that I'm going to spend my whole life trying to prove myself as an individual, and that's a chip on my shoulder. It's really important to me to show that I work really hard because I want to be an individual. And I feel like that's really important to point out just because that's like a similar sentiment to like someone who say is like a Disney star, like coming out of their Disney era, you know, like think like the Miley Cyruses, who also is a nepotism baby, the Seleners, the Ariana Grandes, who had to break out of their like TV show persona and really come up as an individual and sort of establish their own individual identity outside of like what they were known to be. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about is how this conversation of nepotism and nepotism babies plays into race and generational wealth. Because I feel like oftentimes nepotism does disproportionately favor certain white communities just because of like the societal imbalance of like where power and influence and all that is really held, which makes it really interesting for me to like think about like nepotism and just like the theme of like how that relates to generational wealth. So like when it comes down specifically to talking about like Black families and Black generational wealth, because that's an experience I can speak to, like statistically Black families have less overall wealth, which contributes to less generational wealth going down each generation for a bunch of systemic and societal issues, which I do not have time to get into right now, which is why personally for me, seeing like a Black family like the Smiths or the Knowles, even the Obamas, I still get happy to see my people succeed, and really that's just that on that. Like but yeah, I feel like the conversation of nepotism and nepotism babies in the entertainment industry is very, very interesting, and I really want to continue this conversation with you in the comments below. So let me know what you think about nepotism and the entertainment industry. Again, if you're new to the channel, then hit that subscribe button and turn on my post notifications that you never miss when I post. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a like and follow me on my socials here at imuRgency. Thanks so much to my Supporter Plus YouTube members for helping keep this channel afloat. If you would like to become a channel member yourself, then click the join button down here somewhere for a bunch of perks that are listed down below. Other than that, y'all, thank you so much for watching. I've been imuRgency, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.